Hey, what's up, guys? A couple days late on the Generations recap, but the DM said like every couple sessions try to get one in because of the shorter sessions, not as much happens. So this will be a two for one deal, kind of one leading into the next. So where I had left off my game last time was I had just gotten out of that trial, pre-trial, I guess is the best way to say it, and the magnate had kind of burst in his enfeebled state from his poisoning that Miriam had helped him with. Said this is kind of a farce, waved it away, and allowed us to get back to work. He kind of came at the last second clutch, so we separated from there. I started to talk to Miriam about the treatment and everything like that, and it kind of came out that it was very likely that the magnate didn't suffer a dose of poison that sent him into that state. Instead, that it was slowly being given to him, weakening him down, and then perhaps like the latest dose was the one that pushed him over the edge, or if it was a stronger one, but it was something that was occurring over a long period of time. So Miriam and I rushed after him with this information because it was something that we kind of arrived at there, whereas Miriam, I guess, wasn't thinking quite like that at the time. Given the panic situation and all the other stuff going on, I didn't really blame him for it. So we managed to track the magnate down. I explained to him the situation. There's this like tea set in his like private quarters that when we catch, because I'm sorry, we catch up to him and he's there with Amara, and I was like, we need to talk some private because like I don't know where this goes, like who could be in on it or anything like that. I really hope it's not Amara, but she seems like a good person, so I don't think it would be her, just because she's kind of come to bat for us a couple times when she didn't need to. We get there, I explain to the magnate what's going on. Like literally, like someone's trying to poison you, but it's not like you were poisoned, as in you received a singular dose. This is something that's been going on. Fast forwarding a bit here later, with some more information, Miriam kind of speculates, hypothesized, but educated hypothesis that it might have been going on since before we even got here. So it might not necessarily be tied to us, but like, we could definitely be a catalyst for moving things forward. So I talk with the magnate a little bit and I say, listen, like, you are our lifeline here in a sense. Like, you can see there's a very vocal group of people who don't want us here and are willing to go to some pretty extreme measures, including threatening me with a death penalty over this, to like get us to stop and get us out of here. It's like Cass had to like wrestle with that idea that if the trial was dismissed or he did get out of it, like he just has to walk away from this. Like listen, like I'm really sorry. Like we can't help more, but like if this is the way it's gonna be, like I need to get out of here. I gotta protect myself, but also like the two people I brought with me. But it hasn't quite gone that direction, even though a part of me thinks it maybe should. At least as a player, as a character, like Cass still weighs on that. That still weighs on him pretty heavily because he's kind of like indirectly responsible for like Miriam and Lyria's life. With that being said, is Cass assigns Miriam to kind of be with the magnate. He does it for mildly political reasons because Cass has basically been publicly charged with like the death of a Darklander. Not that they call themselves the Darklands, but I don't. But yeah, like what they are to Cass, like just he throws out some slurs like the Darkies or something like that. God only knows. No, no. Like I said, I'm sure there's a slur for it, but Cass would never use that slur. He doesn't have that same kind of racist overtones that some of the people of his people have. But being responsible for the death of one of these people, it doesn't bode well to like have Cass be by his side, whereas like Miriam can still do that and like operate and like be and kind of look after him. Like Cass would be better from a technical standpoint just because Cass is more gifted, but like Miriam can kind of get the job done and like he's a decent people person. But like Miriam is not the brightest when it comes to political circle. He has like a bit of an outburst something to the effect when we were in this meeting of saying that the obvious thing is the subprime. What was her name? I forget what she was, but yeah, whatever her title was, the woman who interviewed me or had like that trial. He's like, oh, it's her. Like she just wants you out. And Amara kind of said, like, kind of caution, and I think the Magnate might have too. Like, yeah, listen, you can't just go through. Like, that's a very serious. And I like kind of literally was saying the same thing. Like, you can't say that kind of thing about a political figure. And I explained to Miriam later as like, what you need to understand is the subprime has a very clear discrimination against us, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she would poison the Magnate to get rid of him. There could be someone in her corner, unknown to her, wanting to put her in power that believes so much, or just like that hates the Magnate so much. Like we can't just we're more complicated because like I think Miriam basically likened it to a scientific method of like you explore the most obvious thing first, and like because a lot of times that's what it is. And it's like with this, like there's a lot more subtext involved, and as something I kind of explained to him, and I said, going forward, I was like, I don't think you did any damage by saying this in this room, because people kind of were there. These people were on our side, and they kind of corrected your reasoning a bit. Not that he's necessarily wrong. It's just not something that you can say without concrete evidence. You can go forward with that hypothesis and perform an investigation, but you can't like announce that hypothesis based on the information that you have at that point. So we kind of like put him on a better path for that, like because like I said, we don't want a political nightmare here, even though we already kind of have one. I go back with Miriam. He kind of collects some things. I have a conversation with Zug about like keeping him up to date. Pretty much keep him in the loop with things. He's my security guy. I talk with Lyria a bit. Tell her about. That was one of the things the Magnate says. He can help us with some of the redacted information, specifically around things that are important to our investigation, as opposed to redacting everything, because there's a lot of redacted stuff. So that's kind of like what I set her off on. I give Miriam a little bit of a code, whatever. If he can't like reach out to us directly, like to like set up if things are okay or if things are bad, and he goes off. I continue with my research. I notice a pattern, and it is a pretty significant breakthrough, that Quarry energy, the opposite to Nui energy, or like the twisting and perversion of Nui energy, is not necessarily like an opposite, like it's a separate energy. I think they believe it stems from the same thing, is avoided or danced around in a way where it seems like there's cases of it being used, and they actively avoid calling it that. Like they like twice remove themselves from that possibility, but it's enough to emerge like a pattern to be able to see the way that they do that. So that's something I start looking into. 2 days go by while we're doing this researching, and Miriam comes back, and a tall, slender female comes with him. She's dealing with the redacted info. She comes and collects the documents that we had asked for. Lyria gives her like the priority of it, saying like, the stuff towards the top is most important. So if it's like you're limiting a certain amount, like then those are the most important. Otherwise, like just give us what we can, because like we're trying to figure things out. Her name is Asia. That's all that's important about her. We send her off. I catch up with Miriam a little bit. The Magnate's due for his vitamin shot. This is something that was referenced in the past, that because they live underground and because of the harsh conditions down here, there's basically a state-mandated wellness checkup that comes with like a 6-month nutrient dosage that like helps with vitamins. It's equivalent of an intense vitamin shot, and they've been like kind of trying to figure out a way to make sure like nothing's been tampered with it and everything like that. Just more like not trying to figure out, just like trying to do their due diligence, because there was an attempt on the Magnate's life. I talk with Miriam's like seeing how things going. I give him a couple of suggestions of things to look out for with the Magnate. Maybe try to like, if there is free time or anything like that, like kind of try to like press a couple things of like any kind of info you find that would be like relevant to what's going on, because I believe the Magnate's being pretty forward, but like just anything could help at this point. Like kind of the best use of his time. and I kind of send him off with like those several tasks. Lyria and I get back to it. We learn from a historical stand. Oh no, that's something that comes up. Is from a historical standpoint, only a fraction of the population can wield Quari energy. So when we say fraction, like a small percentage of the population is like me. Like we're considered 1%ers, where we basically can wield Nui energy. Amidst that 1%, there is a small fraction that can also wield Quari, which they believe, like I said, as I later read, it looks like it's a perversion of it. Based on my knowledge, so I had a knowledge sheet, and I said I've read it at least half a dozen times, but it's also been about a year since I've been in Generation, so I should have reread it again, because we were talking like, oh, like this Quari energy, is it passed down or anything like that? And it was like, you're not sure, you don't think so. Lyria didn't think so. In my notes, or in the thing I got that I purchased from the store, it specifically says that Quari energy seems like it is passed down to a certain extent. Like, basically, it follows lineages and things like that. So I was like, oh, well, that would have answered that question. Something that I want to look into is animal testing, possibly done with the Quari energy before the children, because this does still seem like a very scientific type experiment. Like it's someone like kind of testing the waters with Quari is a leading theory, because of the way the individuals who are affected are set up, all the same age range, split groups as far as like diversity goes. I don't think it's quite equal male to female, but it's pretty close. No, I think it is equal male to female. It's just like there might be two females from a certain region, and like one male, one female from another, two males from another. Like it's not an equal split of one male, one female from each location. So like maybe that was like their like kind of attempt to hide that a little bit, but yeah, the other thing thinking about it is finding out if Quari energy requires upkeep, because Nui energy requires upkeep to maintain its effects. And if it does, that means that there's someone near the kids that is keeping this effect on them. But here's like the big thing that's kind of looking into is, one, we had that big hint or that was dropped to us that says find out where the dark circles have gone. We believe, or we have tied to, that the dark circles around people's eyes and the spots that accompany them are a side effect of people using Quari energy. Kind of like the Force in Star Wars, like there's that degradation kind of effect. It seems like Quari energy has like a physical manifestation on the body for using it, for the user. So we're looking into that. What I want to find is, even if we can't find the person that's presumably doing this, being able to find someone who is, we'll say air quotes, gifted with Quari energy, and being able to interview them. Because like the DM was like, well, you wouldn't want to like experiment on somebody because like there's some serious ethical concerns there. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Like I don't want to infect someone with Quari energy or anything like that. But that being said, there are at least like interviewing on the process if it works, because like I can Nui energy isn't the most tangible thing, but I can still explain like processes of like exploration of Laku, like as far as a almost like a scanning type procedure, or like the healing nature of like, I understand like that it basically it naturally excites and like boosts the healing cells, or like the healing abilities in a body. Like it basically supercharges them. So it's like, if I can understand Quari, even if it's like from a vocal standpoint, I at least have a grounds on which to fight the thing that we're up against. But it's going to be dangerous, and it's going to like I just know from reading the document that I've been given, like it's not an easy process. Like there are certain systems where it's like, so like basically the way I have the breakdown is I have someone who's been affected by, if you assume they've been affected by Quari energy, they have a certain chance of success of Nui winning out, of Quari winning out. But if they're actively battling against each other, those numbers skew a lot more heavily. Like there's some that are like 99%, where it's like if you're actively involved in that kind of battle and they're affecting that system in the body, like Nui energy can't overcome it. Like it's just like it's such a long shot to do. It would just be detrimental. So hopefully we can kind of peel back some of the curtains here. And that was another thought I kind of had, is if they're removing undesirables from society, which created these dark lands, Quarry energy users would be in that. So if you basically create a higher than normal concentration of what is a otherwise very rare trait, you might have more people down here doing this because of a more limited reproductive pool, and then like a concentration of that thing, which does have ties to heredity, like which doesn't like it can be inherited in a sense. So we kind of Lyria kind of has like this little bit of a mini breakdown where she kind of comes to the realization that it does seem like this is something that someone is doing. And I'm just like I in the most unsympathetic thing, Cass thinks but doesn't say welcome to the party. Like this is where I've been. Like I've already come to terms with it. Where it's like for her, it's like oh this is literally like some monster out there like killing children to like see if the to like experiment with this power and things like that. So she's kind of horrified by it, and he does go to comfort her, but like I kind of aside to the DM like yeah like DM I've already been there like welcome to the party, and it's terrible. That being said, Lyria and I talk a little bit. I comfort her, and then we pretty much decide moving forward that Quarry is kind of our primary. It's our hypothesis that we're going to explore thoroughly moving forward until we can either confirm or deny it. So that kind of like narrows our field a little bit, and also gives me some things to talk to the magnate about. That was something I asked Miriam. I was like, listen, I know the magnate's very busy, but like if you could have him stop by, I'd like to ask him a couple of things. And it seems like Miriam's gonna try to make it down like every 2 days or so. So hopefully like in between like the research blips and everything like that, and like us getting some redacted information, we can start to narrow things down and see if this hypothesis are right or not. The problem with it all is like for every bit of information we've gained, or like hints we've gained towards moving us in a singular direction, it opens up many more questions. And there's so much unknown stuff that while I feel like this was a major step in progress because we have a path moving forward, as opposed to it feels like we got a little bit outside of the broad spectrum identification and narrowed it down a little bit, but there's still so many questions. So I don't feel like I'm that much closer to it. It's not just like I don't imagine like next session I'm gonna show up and the guy's gonna be there or anything like that. It might, you never know. Like as I was explaining to the DM, is like it feels so crazy because it feels like we're at such a linchpin moment where if a couple things happen or fall into place, like we could rapidly progress our process down here. But like until then, we're just floundering with more and more questions. It's like there's this very real bottleneck of information that exists where if we could concrete out like a couple things, like this is the way this is the way that is, this is happening, then suddenly like our search parameters get so much more narrow, and and things get so much easier so quick. Now there's still very real challenges at the end because of like just the nature of this Nui and Quarry like dichotomy that exists, and like Quarry being really really good at what it does. Like because I think it's because it's kind of like a twisted version of Nui energy. Like that's why it is so brutal, because Nui energy is also very good at what it does, but like as far as like fighting against one another, like fighting a Quarry user in this kind of thing, it seems exceptionally difficult. And that's going in blind. Like it seems like the stuff I read doesn't specify if it's like the two users are going in blind, or the two users have an experience like a Quarry user experienced against someone who's using Nui, and vice versa, or if it's two blind users. If it's two experienced users, it already seems really complicated. If it's one blind user and one experienced user, that skews it even further, I feel like. So that's kind of bad news. The other thing that comes out of this is Cass entertains the idea, but thankfully does not vocalize, that if this is a Quarry user, they seem familiar with Nui energy, but specifically because of the resistant things that Laku did to me that happened when I was examining Laku, and that makes it really concerning because, as far as I'm aware, medical professionals in a top facility in the Darklands are completely ignorant to Nui energy as a whole. So the possibility exists that this could be someone from Nui proper who is familiar with Nui energy. So that's like a whole political fiasco waiting to happen, where it's like a big part of Cass hopes it's one of their own disgruntled people, but it's like, if it's like someone who was sent over here, or like a malcontent who is like from Nui proper, that makes it even worse. But if Cass does manage to save these kids or anything like that would at least go some way of being like, listen, like, we don't hold this extremist views, like, we're here to help, kind of thing. But it's still like a very real. It definitely makes it a lot more gray as far as like accepting Nui proper, or like accepting some kind of treaty or truce, because it's like, oh, it's like one of you came over here and we're like absolute monsters, even though like you managed to save the kids. Like, yeah, there's still that kind of thing. So it's like, you don't really get any headway if that's the case. That's why Cass didn't say anything. I really hope that's not the case. That it is someone from Nui proper, like, kind of acting as a terrorist over here. But we will see. That's about where I finished things. We settled on Nui energy moving, or Quarry energy moving forward, as our lead hypothesis, and until we can kind of prove or disprove it, we're going to like stick to that and kind of explore it as thoroughly as possible. That was my session in Generations.